Why did no one ever look twice at her? Maybe that was the point. She made herself invisible, safety glasses on, bucket in hand, shoulders bent as if the weight of other people's waste was all she carried. To most of the shooters on that Colorado range, she was nothing more than a janitor. Just a woman with work gloves picking up brass casings glinting like discarded coins in the sand. But Maya Chin was reading the desert. She always was. The way dust spiraled off the ridges told her wind speed more accurately than any digital meter. The faint sting in her sinuses meant a storm was coming from the northwest, hours before the first clouds would appear. Even the smell, sage and distant rain, was a forecast written in air. She crouched low, fingers brushing over a dented .308 casing, cataloging its story. Someone had jerked a trigger, someone impatient. She could hear it just from the way the brass lay twisted. The wealthy weekend warriors came here in their expensive gear, buying the illusion of mastery, spraying lead into the desert and bragging about calibers. Maya bent and collected their mistakes, trading them for a few dollars worth of recycling. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her grandfather had raised her on the of Montana, where bullets weren't sport, they were survival. Miss a shot there and dinner limped away into the pines. Read the wind wrong and you weren't just off by inches, you were off by meals. The mountain speaks to those who listen, little wolf, Thomas Whitehorse would whisper, his hand steady on her shoulder as they tracked elk through endless wilderness. Feel it, taste it, watch how the grass bends. The wind is telling you everything. That man had been her compass. Now he was 3 years gone, buried under Montana soil, while she scraped brass off concrete for $12 an hour. At Station 7, a businessman in $1,000 tactical gear cursed his rifle, his voice loud enough to draw glances. Maya had been watching him for 20 minutes, nodding the same mistake again and again, jerking the trigger, ignoring the crosswind, letting his ego steer him blind. His bullets walked 6 inches right of center at 600 meters, a grouping so consistent it was almost comical. 2 minutes left. Squeeze like you're trying not to wake a baby, she muttered under her breath, knowing he'd never hear her. Another shot rang out. Another miss, exactly where she'd predicted. She shook her head and bent to scoop another casing into her bucket. It clinked softly against the others, each metallic sound a reminder of how far she'd fallen. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a message from David, her brother. Rent's due Thursday, you good for your half? She typed back a quick got it covered, even though she wasn't sure. $40 worth of brass maybe, if the prices held. Ramen noodles waited at her apartment. Medical school bills waited on David's desk. The weight of both pressed down harder than the Colorado sun. She didn't notice the transport pulling up until the murmurs started. Staff Sergeant James Hawk had arrived. Whispers spread like wildfire through the facility. The British sniper, the one with the impossible shot, the one who'd put a Taliban commander in the dirt at 3,847 meters, so far that some called it divine intervention. Men like that didn't just carry rifles, they carried myths. Maya stayed behind the equipment shed, her bucket half full, pretending to be invisible while her eyes drank him in. Hawk walked with a predator's economy of motion, no wasted steps, no unnecessary gestures. His rifle case bore scars from sand and snow, the kind you couldn't buy in a store. This wasn't a tourist. This wasn't a wannabe in tactical pants. This was a man who had lived with a rifle pressed to his soul. The range master greeted him with reverence. Hawk only nodded, scanning the terrain with pale eyes that saw everything. Those eyes passed over the range like searchlights, and for a moment they brushed her direction. Maya froze, pulse kicking hard against her ribs, but his gaze moved on. She told herself it was nothing, just another ghost passing through. Later, he unpacked his rifle at the 2,000-meter line, laying it out with the devotion of a priest setting an altar. Maya drifted closer, unable to help herself. The weapon was beautiful, dangerous, balanced like something that belonged to both art and science. His first shot rang steel without hesitation, No ranging, no corrections, just cold, perfect precision. She hadn't meant to speak aloud. Impressive. Hawk's head turned, his gaze finding her across the firing line. Their eyes locked, and something electric passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or the silence of predators when they meet their own kind. He looked too long. Long enough to notice the way she'd been watching wind flags without realizing it, the unconscious stance of someone who belonged here more than she admitted. Then he turned back, but not before a furrow crossed his brow. He'd seen something. Maya's chest tightened with equal parts dread and thrill. Being invisible was safe. Being noticed was dangerous. She should have walked away, should have kept her head down. Instead, her voice betrayed her again. "Your wind calls off by 3 clicks," she said, not to Hawk but to the executive missing shots at 800 meters. She pointed toward a faint shimmer in the air. "See that mirage? It's lying to you." The man followed her correction, adjusted, fired. The bullet struck center mass. The sound echoed across the range like a bell. "Lucky guess," Maya muttered, already turning away, cursing herself. But it was too late. The businessman was staring at her with wild-eyed awe. He grabbed her arm, his grip entitled, demanding, "How the hell did you know that? Who are you?" "I'm nobody, just the cleaning lady." She twisted free, stepping back into the defensive stance her grandfather had taught her, ready if he didn't let go. From the tower, Hawk lowered his binoculars. His hands trembled. Because she hadn't just made a good call, she'd made it faster than he had. The mirage was subtle, nearly invisible. No civilian should have caught it. No ordinary woman should have read the air like scripture, but she had. And Hawk knew talent when he saw it. He found her later, cornering her by the maintenance shed where she ate her sandwich alone. "That was a hell of a wind call," he said, his accent sharpening every word. "Mind telling me where you learned to read mirage like that?" Her heart hammered. She spent 3 years hiding, shrinking, becoming background. And here he was, cutting through all of it with eyes that wouldn't let go. "YouTube," she lied. His smile was sharp as a blade. "Right, and I learned to shoot watching action movies. Try again, love, don't insult me." Maya looked away, clutching her sandwich, fighting the urge to run. But Hawk leaned closer, his voice low, his presence heavy with something that wasn't threat but wasn't safety either. "Don't waste my time," he said. "Where did you learn to see the wind like that?" Her defenses cracked. The words slipped out like blood from a wound. "My grandfather, Thomas White Horse, he taught me everything." And Hawk's eyes changed. Recognition, hunger, a spark of something dangerous. "Then maybe," he whispered, "you and I aren't finished here." Maya didn't answer. Couldn't. Because the weight of his stare told her that her invisibility was over. The British sniper had seen her, and he would not let her fade back into the shadows. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear, beneath the grief, something long dormant stirred awake. Why was he still watching her? Even after she walked away, even after she tried to disappear back into the background where she belonged, she could feel his gaze, sharp, unrelenting, like crosshairs tracking her every move. Maya hated the attention. For 3 years she had mastered invisibility, surviving by being unremarkable, by blending into the landscape like a piece of forgotten equipment. But Hawk didn't believe in shadows. He peeled them back. He saw through them. And that terrified her. The next day she tried to avoid him, kept her head down, her bucket rattling with brass, her body bent to the work of the invisible. But he cornered her again, waiting at the edge of the range like a hunter who'd already studied his prey. "Where did you really learn?" Hawk's voice was quiet, but his eyes were merciless. "Don't say YouTube again. That was funny yesterday. It won't be funny today." Maya kept walking. She thought silence might be her shield. But his boots fell into step beside her, his shadow stretching across hers in the desert sun. "You made a call faster than me," Hawk continued. "That's not luck. That's not accident. You saw things people spend decades learning to see." He leaned closer, his voice a whisper meant for her alone. You think I don't recognize talent when I see it? Don't insult my intelligence. Her throat tightened. She wanted to tell him nothing, wanted to bury it all, the hunts in Montana, the nights on ridge lines, her grandfather's steady hand guiding her through storms. But the words broke free anyway, carried on some current she couldn't resist. My grandfather taught me, she said, her voice low. Thomas White Horse. He guided hunters, made impossible shots look like breathing. He taught me the mountains had their own language, that if I listened close enough I could hear it. Hawk stopped walking, his eyes narrowed with recognition. White Horse, he muttered. I've heard that name before. Maya's chest tightened. She didn't want to remember, didn't want to see the hospital bed again, or the sound of labored breathing, or the silence that followed when the machines finally stopped. But memory didn't ask for permission. It never did. He's dead, she said quickly, harsher than she meant. The ranch is gone, all of it's gone. I've got bills, a brother in med school, and this. She lifted the bucket of brass casings, letting the metal clink like hollow laughter. This is what's left. She turned away, ready to walk, but Hawk stepped into her path, blocking her escape. His pale eyes bore into hers with something that wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was hunger. What's the longest shot you've made? He asked. Maya froze. Her mind fought to resist the memory, but it rose anyway, snow-dusted ridge lines, wind like invisible rivers through the canyon, an elk silhouetted against the far horizon. She'd measured it after GPS confirmation, the number burned into her memory. 1,247 yards, she whispered. One shot, clean kill. Hawk's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Impressive, but that's not what I'm asking you to do. Maya frowned, asking me. He leaned closer, lowering his voice until she could feel the weight of every word. 4,000 meters. The number hung between them like a death sentence. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's impossible. Is it? His tone was calm, measured like a man statting the time of day. Bullet drop of 400 feet, 5.8 seconds of flight. Wind drift that could send the shot into the next county. It's beyond the edge of physics, beyond what most even dare to try, but not beyond you. Maya shook her head. You're insane. Maybe, Hawk admitted, his eyes glinting. But I've watched you. You read the air faster than I did. You saw what others couldn't. And your grandfather didn't just teach you to hunt, did he? He taught you to think in distances most people can't even comprehend. She swallowed hard, anger and fear battling inside her. Why? Why would you even suggest something so crazy? For the first time, Hawk hesitated. His gaze dropped, his jaw tightening. Something flickered in him, a fracture in the myth, a glimpse of the man beneath. Because I need to know I haven't lost it, he said finally, his voice low, almost broken. For 2 years I've wondered if the best part of me died in Kandahar, if the edge is gone. But watching you, maybe training you, maybe that's the way I remember why I ever picked up a rifle in the first place. The words hit her harder than she expected, because she understood. She carried her own ghosts, the twisted wreckage of her parents' accident, her grandfather fatting beneath hospital lights, the crushing weight of bills and failure. She knew what it meant to need proof that she wasn't useless. So what? She said bitterly. You're going to use me as therapy, train the broken janitor to make an impossible shot so you can feel better about yourself. No, Hawk said, his voice steady, his eyes locked on hers. I want to see if you're as good as I think you are. I want to see if together we can touch something that exists only in legend. I want to see if you have the courage to find out what you're truly capable of. The desert wind carried silence between them. Maya felt the weight of choice pressing down on her chest. She could walk away, go back to invisibility, scraping brass until her spirit withered into nothing. Or she could step into the impossible, into a fire that could either forge her into steel or consume her completely. When, she heard herself whisper, Hawk's smile was sharp as winter wind. Tomorrow. The training began before dawn. The range was empty, security lights throwing long shadows across the firing lines. Hawk was already there, of course, waiting like a sentinel. His rifle lay across the table, his posture casual but his eyes never still. Prone 600 meters, 10 rounds, sub-MOA grouping, he said without preamble. If you can't hold tight at 6, you'll never touch 4,000. Maya obeyed, settling into position with the familiarity of someone who'd been raised on it. Elbow under the rifle, cheek welded to stock, breathing steady. The first shot cracked through the silence, striking 6 inches high and 2 inches right. Not bad, not good enough. You're not reading the flags, Hawk said sharply. Look again. The grass at 300 bends different from the line. That's sheer. It'll kill you every time. Maya adjusted. The second shot centered, then the third. By the 10th, she'd carved a group smaller than a silver dollar. Her chest swelled with pride, but Hawk only nodded. Better, but not perfect, and perfection isn't the goal. His eyes glinted cold. Perfection is just the beginning. The regimen was brutal. Push-ups until her arms shook, sit-ups until her core burned like fire, running with weighted packs that dragged her lungs into knives. Hawk's voice drilled into her like steel. Your body is the foundation. If the foundation shakes, the shot fails. If your muscles tremble, the bullet drifts. If your heart races, you miss the break. Again. Again and again, until the world blurred, until she collapsed in the sand, sweat burning her eyes, her chest clawing for air. And still she whispered, again. The calculations filled notebooks. Bullet drop measured in stories. Wind drift measured in yards. Effect bending a bullet 3 feet just because the earth turned beneath it. 1,000 variables, each one a thief waiting to steal the shot. It's impossible, she whispered one night, staring at the equations. That's what makes it worth it, Hawk replied. Sleep abandoned her. She woke before alarms, her body screaming from yesterday's punishment, her mind already racing with numbers. Every wall of her apartment was plastered with ballistic charts, wind tables, equations scrawled like scripture. But the harder she trained, the more the ghosts came. At night she saw twisted metal, her parents' faces, her grandfather's frail body beneath hospital light. She saw herself failing again and again, missing the shot, watching another life slip away. One night she stood at the range under fluorescent lights, shooting through tears. She loaded round after round, hands shaking, body trembling. Every miss was another wound, every failure another confirmation of worthlessness. Enough, Hawk's voice came from the shadows. No, her voice cracked. I can do this, I just need. You need sleep, food, sanity. He stepped closer, and for the first time she saw something in his eyes that looked like fear. When did you last eat a real meal? When did you last sleep more than 3 hours? Her lips trembled. I can't stop. Every time I close my eyes, I see them, my parents, my grandfather. I couldn't save any of them. I couldn't do anything. And you think this shot will change that? Hawk asked. Yes, she whispered, sobbing. If I can do something impossible, if I can prove I'm not useless, maybe their deaths will mean something. Hawk's jaw clenched. His voice dropped, sharp and broken. I know that feeling I missed once. Kandahar, a perfect setup. 2,800 meters, a commander in my crosshairs. I should have ended it, but I missed by 6 inches. 3 days later, his men killed 14 people, 2 of them children. The silence that followed was heavier than gunfire. Maya looked up at him, her tears meeting the raw edge of his confession. 2 broken souls, each chasing redemption in the impossible. Then why are we doing this? She whispered. Hawk held out his hand. His eyes were steady, his voice unflinching. Because sometimes one moment of perfection is enough. Why did her hands keep shaking? The rifle was steady, her stance perfect, her breathing controlled, but her fingers betrayed her, trembling as though some part of her body remembered what her mind tried to forget. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor of her cramped apartment, surrounded by notebooks and charts that looked like a mathematician's fever dream. Pages of calculations sprawled across every surface, bullet trajectories, wind drift tables, temperature adjustments, corrections for the Earth's rotation. The walls had become a shrine to ballistics, each scribbled equation a prayer to the gods of precision. Her eyes burned. She hadn't slept properly in weeks. Coffee cups littered the floor. Her body was leaner than it had ever been, not by choice but by neglect. The ramen on the stove had gone cold hours ago. And yet none of it felt enough. The numbers mocked her. At 4,000 meters, a bullet wasn't just a bullet. It was a fragile miracle fighting physics itself. Drop, drift, heat, air density. Each one threatened to drag the round into failure. The further she stared at the equations, the more it felt like she was trying to control chaos itself. She pressed her palms against her eyes. I can't. But she could, she had to. Every morning Hawk was there at the range, unyielding. He never shouted, never raged. He didn't have to. His silence was sharper than any rebuke. Again, he'd say, and she would push until her arms failed, until her vision swam, until her spirit cracked under the weight of impossible expectation. The obsession consumed her. Work shifts blurred. Meals disappeared. The few friends she'd managed to hold onto drifted away, unanswered messages stacking up like debts she couldn't pay. Then came the nightmares. Her parents' twisted car on the side of a Montana road. Her grandfather's chest rising under hospital machines, then falling still. And over it all, the echo of gunfire, each miss another failure, each shot a reminder of what she couldn't save. One night, Hawk found her on the range at 3 a.m. The fluorescent lights hummed like insects overhead, bleaching the world to bone and shadow. Maya's face was streaked with tears, her hands slipping on cartridges as she tried to load another round. Enough, he said from the dark. No, her voice cracked. I can do this, I just need to focus, I just need. You need sleep. He stepped forward, his pale eyes lit with something that wasn't his usual steel, concern, fear, even. When was the last time you ate a real meal? When was the last time you slept more than 3 hours? She shook her head, loading the round with trembling fingers. I can't stop. Every time I close my eyes, I see them, my parents, my grandfather. I couldn't save them, I couldn't do anything. But this, her voice faltered, breaking under the weight of it. If I can do this, if I can make the impossible shot, maybe their deaths will mean something. Maybe I'll mean something. Hawk's jaw tightened. For a moment his mask cracked. You think I don't understand that? His voice was rough, edged with memory. Kandahar, 2,800 meters, a commander in my scope. I should have ended it, but I missed. 6 inches. He walked away. 3 days later, 14 people died, 2 of them children. Maya froze. The confession hung between them like smoke. You blame yourself, she whispered. Every day. His voice was sharp as broken glass. And no shot, no miracle will bring them back. But sometimes one moment of perfection is enough to keep you from drowning. They stood there in silence, 2 broken souls clinging to the idea that the impossible might be their salvation. It all came crashing down the day David found out. The screech of tires shattered the desert calm. Maya was adjusting her scope when she heard it, rubber on gravel, frantic, angry. Through the chain-link fence she saw the battered Civic fishtail to a stop in a cloud of dust. Her brother stepped out, still wearing his blood-stained scrubs from a 16-hour shift at the hospital. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His face was raw panic and fury. Maya, his voice cracked across the firing line. What the hell are you doing? Her blood went cold. David wasn't supposed to be here. He wasn't supposed to know. She rose from the bench, panic surging, but he was already striding toward her, a crumpled piece of paper in his hand. You think you can hide this from me? He shoved the paper at her chest. A bank statement. The numbers screamed in black ink: ammunition purchases, equipment rentals, range fees, thousands of dollars, money that wasn't hers to spend. $15,000, Maya. His voice cracked with betrayal. Mom and Dad's life insurance. Every penny we needed to keep the lights on while I finished school. Gone. Blown on bullets in some fantasy about being a sniper. Her mouth went dry. She hadn't added it up. She hadn't wanted to. She thought she could cover it, thought she could stretch, thought she could hide. But the truth was right there, undeniable. I can pay it back, she whispered, though even she didn't believe it. With what? His voice was raw, breaking. Your $12 job picking up trash. Maya, look at yourself. She did. For the first time, she really looked. The reflection in the rifle scope showed her hollow cheeks, her dark circles, her trembling hands. She looked gaunt, consumed, obsessed. I have to do this, she said weakly. You don't understand. I understand you're destroying yourself. David's hands shook as he waved the statement again. You're using our parents' deaths as an excuse to commit suicide by degrees. You think this shot will fix something inside you. It won't. It'll kill you. Maya's chest cracked open. All the words she had buried came spilling out like blood. You think I don't know I'm a failure. You think I don't see it in your eyes every time you come home from the hospital. You, the brilliant one, saving lives, fixing people, and me, collecting garbage, watching dreams rot. I couldn't save them. I couldn't keep the ranch. I couldn't do anything but scrape brass off concrete. Don't you dare tell me I don't need this. David's fury collapsed under the weight of her pain. His face went pale, his shoulders sagging. Oh, Maya, he whispered, is that what you think? That I see you as a failure? God, no. But she couldn't hear it. The fire in her chest burned too hot. I have to do this, she repeated. Her voice was thin, trembling, but it was the only truth she had left. If I don't, then I'm nothing. The crack in the rifle barrel came like a death sentence. 3 months of training, $15,000 of debt, countless hours of obsession, all undone by a fracture thinner than a hairline. She found it during inspection, her fingers running along the steel, pausing where smoothness became imperfection. A ridge, a flaw, catastrophic. Hawk confirmed it with grim finality. We've pushed too hard, too many rounds. The barrel's finished. Maya sank to her knees in the sand, the weight of it crushing her. Everything she had given, everything she had lost, it all died in that moment, in the silence that followed. No, she whispered, her voice breaking. No, no, no. The backup rifle was worse than useless, incapable of accuracy past 2,800 meters. Their dream had collapsed. Unless there might be another way, Hawk said quietly, his eyes dark with something she didn't recognize. Maya looked up, desperate. What way? The kind that comes with debts you never stop paying. She should have walked away. She should have let the dream die. But she didn't. And that decision would haunt her forever. What kind of man did Hawk have to call to save them? The question burned in Maya's chest as she stood beside him in the cooling desert air, staring at the cracked barrel that had just killed 3 months of obsession. Her instincts told her the dream was finished. The steel was broken. Physics had spoken. And yet Hawk's expression carried something dangerous, resolve mixed with desperation. There might be another way, he said. Maya searched his face. What way? The kind you don't come back from. The black SUV arrived at midnight. Its engine idled like a growl, headlights off, body polished to absorb the darkness. Maya stood on the balcony of her small apartment, watching it pull into the facility lot below. The night was silent but charged, like the moments before a storm breaks. 2 men stepped out. One was Hawk, his face unreadable even from 3 stories up. The other moved with the fluid weight of violence given human form. His body was, his face mapped like a battlefield, skin stitched, broken teeth, eyes flat and dangerous. Maya didn't need Hawk's introduction to understand what he was. Predator, mercenary, ghost. Hawk introduced him anyway, Reaper. The name was enough. Reaper studied her like a puzzle he had no intention of solving. His gaze was steady, unhurried, stripping her to her bones. He didn't look at her like Hawk did, with curiosity or recognition. No, Reaper looked at her the way one appraises a weapon. Functional, replaceable. "So this is the girl," he said finally, his accent a mixture of places, hard to place. "The one who thinks she can touch God at 4,000 meters. His lip curled into something resembling a smile. "She doesn't look like much." Maya bristled, but before she could speak, Hawk answered. His voice was steady, but she caught the edge of caution in it. "Looks deceive." Reaper's attention shifted to the rifle case in his hands. It was matte black carbon fiber, unmarked except for a small insignia, a skull, stylized and sharp. He set it on the tailgate of the SUV and clicked it open. Inside lay a weapon that seemed to drink in the night. Sleek, perfect, beautiful in the way apex predators are beautiful, engineered for one purpose and one purpose only. "Accuracy International Axe 50, Reaper said, running a finger along the stock with reverence. "Chambered in .416, custom barrel by a German craftsman who builds fewer than 6 rifles a year. Scope is a ZF 624x72, military grade, glass so clear you'll think you're staring through time." Maya's breath caught. It was the most beautiful rifle she had ever seen. She reached toward it instinctively, then froze. "What's the catch?" Reaper's smile widened, revealing teeth repaired poorly, jagged reminders of violence. "Smart girl." He closed the case halfway as though threatening to take the weapon with him. "The catch is simple. This rifle doesn't exist. No serial numbers, no trail, no questions. A ghost weapon built for people who need to reach out and touch someone without leaving fingerprints." "And the price?" Maya asked. Reaper's eyes slid past her, landing on Hawk, already paid in Kandahar. The silence that followed was heavy enough to choke. Maya turned to Hawk, her stomach twisting. "What kind of favor?" Reaper's grin was sharp as knives. "The kind that keeps men breathing when they should be buried. The kind governments pretend not to see. The kind that follows you for the rest of your life." Hawk's face was pale, but his voice was steady. "The rifle will do what we need." "Oh, it'll do more than that." Reaper leaned in close to Maya, his voice gravel and cigarettes. "This rifle could put a bullet through a playing card at 5,000 meters, but that depends." His hand gestured lazily toward her, "on whether the girl has the hands for it." Maya didn't flinch. She lifted the rifle from its case. It was heavier than she expected, yet perfectly balanced as if it were molded for her grip alone. Through the scope, the night sharpened into impossible clarity. The rifle wasn't just a tool, it was a promise. Still, beneath its perfection, she felt something darker, a weight, not just of steel but of all the blood it was built for. "What happens after I make the shot?" she asked quietly. Reaper's smile was a blade. "That depends on whether you hit or miss, girl. Success attracts attention. Attention brings obligations." Maya looked at Hawk. He held her gaze, his own eyes carrying the same desperation she felt in her chest. They were too far in now. There was no turning back. "When do we shoot?" she asked. The desert was silent at dawn. Hawk and Maya set up on the range outside Nevada, the ghost rifle gleaming in the pale light. The conditions were perfect. Wind dead calm, temperature steady, visibility endless. The target was a steel plate 4,000 meters away, barely visible through binoculars. At that distance, it was no larger than a thumbnail against the horizon. Impossible. Maya lay prone, her body one with the rifle. Hawk crouched beside her, spotting scope pressed to his eye, his voice steady. "Wind 0, temperature 72, pressure 30.15, stable." Maya exhaled slowly, syncing her breathing with her heartbeat. Through the scope, the target shimmered in the rising heat, a dark rectangle suspended in the mirage. "Elevation, 47.2 minutes up," Hawk said. At this distance, the bullet will drop 1,247 inches. Flight time 5.8 seconds. Effect 3 feet east. You've accounted for it. The picture's clean. Her finger touched the trigger. A 2-pound break between intention and action. Whenever you're ready. Time slowed. She thought of the ranch, the hunts, her grandfather's voice whispering, "Feel the wind, little wolf." She thought of David, furious and broken. She thought of every hour spent tearing herself apart to reach this impossible edge. Her world narrowed to crosshairs and silence. She squeezed. The rifle roared, a thunderclap that shook the earth. Recoil drove through her shoulder, but she rode it like a wave. The bullet leapt into the air, spinning at 300,000 revolutions per minute, carving a path against gravity, air, and time itself. Hawk's voice was tight. Shot away, tracking. 1 second. The bullet climbed, invisible but alive. 2 seconds. Gravity began to fight back. 3 seconds. Air resistance dragged. The earth turned beneath it. 4 seconds. Maya's heart pounded, but her breathing stayed calm. She was a statue waiting for fate. 5 seconds. The bullet began its descent, the long arc of inevitability. 5.8. The steel plate sparked, a tiny flare of light, then sound. The pure ringing note of metal struck true, echoing across the desert like a church bell. Hawk's voice broke the silence. Dead center hit. Maya's body locked in disbelief. Through the scope she saw it, proof etched into steel, a perfect scar, not just a hit, a miracle. Her breath caught, her lips forming the words without meaning to. "I did it." Hawk's professional mask shattered. He shouted with joy, pounding her back, his eyes alive with triumph. "You magnificent bastard, you actually did it." But as Maya lay frozen behind the scope, staring at that impossible hit, something else stirred in her chest. A hollowness, a knowing. Because perfection had a price. And the desert was already whispering the cost. They didn't have to wait long. By the time they returned to the facility, Maya's phone was exploding. Unknown numbers, military contractors, defense companies, sponsorship offers, documentarians. Her name had already spread like wildfire. Hawk tried to hide his unease as he packed the ghost rifle back into its case, his hands quick, almost frantic. "You just joined the smallest club in human history," he said. "Word travels fast." Maya stared at the phone as it buzzed again and again, the voices leaving messages filled with money, fame, promises. But none of it made her feel what she thought she'd feel. Not joy. Not relief, only emptiness. "I thought it would feel different," she whispered. "I thought, I don't know, that I'd feel complete." Hawk paused, his pale eyes softened. The shot was never about completion, it was about proof. The question now is, what do you do with it? Before she could answer, the black SUV appeared again, rolling down the desert road like a shadow. Reaper stepped out, face grinning, eyes sharp. "Congratulations," he said, his voice edged with satisfaction. 4,000 meters, dead center, quite an achievement for a janitor. Maya's stomach turned cold. She already knew what came next. "Now," Reaper continued, his smile cutting like glass, "we talk about repayment. What did victory cost?" Maya didn't know yet, but the look in Reaper's face told her it would be more than she could afford. The steel plate still echoed in her memory, the perfect ring of metal struck at the edge of physics. Hawk had shouted, his mask of control shattered in triumph. Maya had whispered, "I did it," her chest filling with something close to awe. And then the silence came, the weight of it. Now Reaper stood before her in the Nevada sun, his eyes sharp, his smile thin. 4,000 meters dead center, the shot of a lifetime. For most people, the shot of history. His voice carried a gravel rasp, his words slow, deliberate. But perfection, girl, is never free. Hawk stepped forward, his body protective, his tone clipped. "This is between us, not her." Reaper's smile widened. That's where you're wrong. She used my rifle, my favor, my debt. She's part of it now. Maya's stomach twisted. She gripped the ghost rifle harder as if the cold steel could anchor her. What do you want? Reaper studied her for a long, heavy moment. Everything. The phone calls never stopped. By the time Maya returned to her apartment, her phone was a siren. Numbers she didn't recognize, voices offering contracts, sponsorships, fame. One promised a book deal. Another dangled a six-figure contract with. A German-accented woman spoke of defense contracts. A television producer offered a documentary series. It should have been everything she dreamed of. Recognition, money, escape from ramen noodles and overdue rent. But each offer made her chest feel emptier. None of it could bring her parents back. None of it could erase the years she'd spent invisible or the nights whispering her failures into the dark. She let the phone ring. She didn't want fame. She wanted meaning. And yet, when she looked around her apartment, she saw only debt. She saw the bank statements David had thrown in her face. $15,000 gone, burned on ammunition and obsession. She saw her brother's disappointed eyes. For the first time, she wondered if maybe she wasn't chasing perfection at all. Maybe she was just running from failure. Hawk grew restless. He paced her apartment like a caged predator, watching the phone light up with every call. "You're famous now, whether you like it or not," he said. "There's no hiding from it. The world knows your name." "I don't want it," Maya whispered. "Doesn't matter." Hawk's tone was grim. "This community is small. You just did something 5 people in history have done. They'll chase you until you choose a path." "And Reaper." Hawk's eyes darkened. "Reaper's path isn't one you want to walk." 2 days later, Reaper returned. Not to congratulate, to collect. The black SUV rolled to a stop outside the range facility, silent, patient. Reaper stepped out in broad daylight this time, as though daring anyone to see. Maya was at the firing line, teaching herself to breathe again without numbers clawing at her skull. Hawk tensed the moment he saw the man, his body shifting subtly in front of her. Reaper's voice carried easy confidence. "Relax, Hawk. I'm not here for blood, not today." "Then what?" Hawk asked flatly. Reaper's eyes shifted to Maya. "You've proven yourself. You've shown the world you can touch God from 4,000 meters. Now I want you to show the world something else. I want you to work for me." Maya felt her throat close. "Work for you." Reaper smiled, broken teeth catching the sun. "Private demonstrations, special contracts. Let's say clients who want proof their investments in ghost weapons are worth it. You'll be paid more than you've ever imagined. Money, power, security, and you'll never have to pick up brass again." Hawk stepped forward, his voice sharp as a blade. "She's not interested." Reaper ignored him. "What do you say, girl? Fame and fortune, or back to ramen noodles and rent notices? Don't think too long. Opportunities like this disappear fast." Maya felt the desert press in on her, heat shimmering, air heavy. For years she'd wanted recognition. For months she'd poured herself into an impossible dream. And here was the reward, a chance to sell her soul to a man who dealt in shadows. Her voice was steady when she answered, "No." Reaper's smile faltered, only slightly. Then it returned, sharper. "Think carefully. Refusal comes with its own cost." "She said no," Hawk growled. The air between them was taut, like the second before a trigger breaks. Reaper studied Hawk for a long moment, then stepped back toward the SUV. "Fine for now, but debts don't vanish, Hawk. You know that better than anyone." He looked at Maya one last time, his eyes cold as iron. "Enjoy your freedom while it lasts." The SUV rolled away, leaving silence in its wake. Maya's hands shook as she lowered the rifle. Hawk didn't speak. His jaw was tight, his eyes storming. She could feel the weight of what he wasn't saying, that Reaper's shadow was now hers, whether she wanted it or not. The offers kept coming. Wanted her as the face of their new campaign. Discovery Channel wanted an exclusive. Military units whispered invitations, offering training contracts. Every voice promised money. Every voice promised fame. But Maya felt only emptiness. She thought of her grandfather, whispering on Montana, "The wind will tell you its secrets if you're patient enough to listen." Would he want her face on a billboard? Would he want his wisdom sold to the highest bidder? No, he would want her to pass it on, to someone who needed it, to someone who would use it not for profit but for survival. One night David called. His voice was tired but softer than it had been in months. "Maya, the hospital staff won't shut up about you. Half of them saw the videos. You're a legend now. People think you're a hero." She closed her eyes, the word cut deep. Hero, she didn't feel like one. She felt hollow. "I don't want to be a legend," she whispered. David was quiet for a long moment. "Then what do you want?" Her answer came slow, uncertain but real. "I want to matter, not to cameras, not to contracts, to people." Hawk disappeared for days at a time. No explanation, no calls, just gone. When he returned, his eyes were darker, his face harder, the weight of unseen battles carved deeper into his skin. Maya didn't ask where he went. She didn't need to. The shadows had names, and one of them was Reaper. One night Hawk left her a note, 6 words scrawled in his harsh hand. "Don't let them turn you into me." Maya stared at it for hours, the truth heavy in her chest. She was already halfway there. Weeks later, she stood before 12 Marines adjusting a spotting scope for a nervous lance corporal whose hands shook with the same desperation she remembered in herself. "Feel the air," she told him softly. "Taste the pressure. The atmosphere isn't your enemy, it's alive, become part of it." The kid nodded, his breathing steadying, his rifle settling. The shot cracked, ringing steel 600 meters out. He looked at her in awe, and for the first time since Nevada, Maya felt something other than emptiness, purpose. She turned away, catching Sergeant Williams, the grizzled veteran overseeing the program, watching her with quiet respect. "Instructor Chin," he said, "what's the longest shot you've ever made?" Maya paused. For a heartbeat she saw the Nevada desert again, the impossible distance, the perfect ring of steel. But she didn't answer with numbers. She answered with the truth she'd earned. Long enough to know distance doesn't matter. What matters is pushing yourself without losing who you are. The Marines exchanged glances, recognizing wisdom forged in fire. And in that moment Maya understood the shot had been for her, but the teaching that was for them. Reaper didn't vanish. He wouldn't. His kind never did. But for now Maya had chosen. She wouldn't sell her soul. She wouldn't let perfection become another cage. Hawk had given her the impossible. She would give others the possible. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Why did the silence feel heavier than gunfire? The Marines had cheered her instruction, clapping the young lance corporal on the back after his clean hit. But when the firing line emptied and dusk settled over, Maya stood alone. That's when the quiet came, and in the quiet shadows crept back. She knew Reaper hadn't forgotten. Men like him didn't forgive. They waited. Hawk came back broken. It was a Thursday when she heard the knock on her apartment door. Not the hard, steady raps of someone confident, but the uneven thud of someone barely holding themselves upright. She opened it and froze. Hawk leaned against the frame, one hand clutching his ribs, blood seeping dark through his shirt. His eyes, those pale, unblinking eyes, were dulled, ringed with exhaustion. "Help me inside," he said. His voice was ragged, stripped of command. Maya dragged him in, lowering him onto the couch. He winced but didn't cry out, his jaw clamped tight. When she tore his shirt open, her stomach lurched. Bruises bloomed purple across his torso. A cut raked down his side, stitched sloppily with fishing line. "My God, Hawk," she whispered, "what happened?" "Reaper," he said simply. The name was enough. He slumped back, eyes closing. He wanted an answer. I wouldn't give it. An answer to what? Hawk's lips curved into a humorless smile. To whether you dance for him, be his marksman for hire. I told him no. Maya's hands shook as she pressed a rag to his side. And he did this. He reminded me what debts cost when you don't pay. Hawk's breath hitched. But he also wanted to show you, to make sure you understand you're not out of his reach. Maya's chest clenched. Then what do we do? Hawk's eyes opened, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw fear in them. Real fear. We run. They tried. 2 weeks later, Maya left her job at the base. She canceled her lease, stuffed her life into 2 duffels, and met Hawk on the edge of Nevada's endless sprawl. His pickup truck was battered, its bed rattling with gear, but it carried them north, away from cities, away from roads, into the forgotten corners of Wyoming and Montana. It was supposed to feel like freedom, but the further they drove, the more Maya felt hunted. Every gas station mirror seemed to hold unfamiliar eyes watching her. Every highway patrol car made her pulse spike. Every night, she woke to imagined footsteps outside the cheap motel doors. Hawk said little. He drove with hands tight on the wheel, gaze fixed ahead, jaw grinding. When she asked where they were going, he only muttered, "Home." But Hawk didn't have a home, only debts. It happened outside Billings. The motel was cheap, the kind where paint peeled in flakes and doors didn't lock right. Hawk had gone out for supplies. Maya was sprawled on the bed, staring at the ceiling, when the phone on the nightstand rang. Her breath froze. She hadn't given the number to anyone. The voice on the other end was calm, smooth, familiar. "Nice try," Reaper said. Maya's chest tightened. "How?" "You think you can vanish, girl, that I wouldn't find you. You're holding my rifle, breathing because of my debts, standing because I let you. You don't run from that." Her voice trembled despite her effort. "What do you want?" Reaper chuckled softly like a man humoring a child. "I already told you, I want you on my side. But Hawk, poor, stubborn Hawk, thinks he can shield you. That's the thing about shields, they break first." Her throat tightened. "If you hurt him." "You'll do what?" Reaper's tone was mocking. "Hit me at 4,000 meters. Newsflash, girl, you can't kill a shadow. Shadows don't die." The line went dead. Her hands shook as she set the phone down. She wanted to scream, to throw it, to run, but she couldn't move. Reaper had found them again, and next time he wouldn't just call. When Hawk returned, she told him. He listened, his face hardening, eyes sharpening with something cold. "He won't stop," Hawk said finally. "Not until you give him what he wants, or until one of us is gone." That night, Hawk told her the truth. They sat in the flickering light of a motel lamp, shadows stretching across stained carpet. Hawk's face looked older, the scars deeper. His voice was rough but steady. "I was 26, Kandahar. We were running Overwatch for a convoy when Reaper showed up. He wasn't called Reaper then, just another gun for hire, but he saved us. Took out a team of insurgents who had us pinned. Clean work, fast. Without him, I wouldn't be breathing." He paused, sipping from the bottle in his hand, eyes far away. "But debts with men like him aren't measured in gratitude. They're measured in favors. And every favor he calls in drags you deeper. I've paid a dozen already. There's always one more." Maya swallowed hard. "So why bring him into this? Why ask him for the rifle?" Hawk met her gaze. His eyes were pale fire. "Because you deserved the chance. Because I saw what you could be. And because I thought just maybe one perfect shot could buy us freedom from him. But I was wrong." Maya's chest ached. "So what do we do now?" Hawk's jaw tightened. "We stop running, we end it." The plan was reckless, maybe suicidal, but it was all they had. Reaper wanted her skill, wanted her fame, wanted the power of the girl who had touched the impossible, so they would give him something else, bait. Hawk called him. The message was simple, a meeting, neutral ground, one last offer. Reaper agreed too easily. That was the danger. Men like him always set traps, but Hawk had traps of his own. The meeting was set for a gravel quarry outside Helena. Remote, forgotten, a place where echoes swallowed sound and rocks swallowed blood. The night before, Maya couldn't sleep. She sat on the motel balcony, the Montana air sharp with pine and distance. Her hands trembled as she turned the rifle bolt over and over, the motion mechanical, her mind a storm. David's voice echoed in her head, "You're destroying yourself." Her grandfather's whisper followed, "The wind will tell you its secrets if you listen." She had spent months chasing a shot that meant nothing. Now, for the first time, a shot might mean everything. Hawk joined her quietly, leaning on the railing, bottle dangling from his hand. He didn't look at her when he spoke. "If I don't walk out tomorrow, you run." She shook her head, "No." "Yes," he said, his tone leaving no space for argument. "You're not me. You're better. You still have choices. Don't let my debts become your chains." Her voice cracked, "And what about you?" He was silent for a long moment. Then, "Some men aren't meant to outrun their shadows." Maya blinked hard, refusing tears. She wanted to argue, wanted to fight. But Hawk's eyes told her the truth. He'd made peace with his end long ago. She turned back to the night, whispering a vow only the wind could hear. "If tomorrow comes for him, it'll come for me too." The quarry smelled of dust and rust. The moon hung low, throwing jagged shadows across the stone walls. Hawk stood beside Maya, rifle slung, jaw tight. Engines growled. Headlights cut the dark. The black SUV rolled in slow, deliberate. Reaper stepped out, his scars glowing pale in the moonlight, his grin sharp. He wasn't alone. Two men flanked him, silent, armed, shadows with guns. Hawk raised a hand. "Neutral ground, you agreed." Reaper's laugh was low, cold. "Neutral is for men who still believe in rules." Maya's chest tightened. This was no meeting. This was judgment. Reaper's eyes fixed on her, ignoring Hawk completely. "You could had it all, girl. Fame, fortune, purpose. Instead, you hide in motels and play teacher to children. What a waste." Maya steadied her breath, her voice calm. "I told you, I don't want what you're selling." Reaper's grin widened. "Then maybe I take Hawk instead. One last payment, and then maybe you'll see reason." His men raised their rifles. Hawk's voice dropped low and sharp. "Maya now." And the quarry exploded into chaos. How fast can a life unravel? In the quarry, it happened in a heartbeat. The headlights carved jagged light across stone walls. Dust rose in the beam like smoke. Reaper's men lifted their rifles, triggers half squeezed, eyes flat. Hawk's voice cut through the dark, sharp, commanding. "Maya now." She dropped, instinct pulling her flat against the gravel. Her hands moved before her mind caught up, bolt, scope, breath. Her rifle kissed her shoulder, her cheek settling into steel as though the weapon itself had been waiting for this moment. Two shadows closed in on Hawk. Their movements were efficient, practiced, predators. Maya's crosshairs settled, her chest squeezed. She had spent months chasing steel plates, cold targets, but now flesh and bone filled her scope. And for the first time the question roared inside her, could she do it? Could she take a life? Hawk shouted, lunging forward, his own rifle sweeping. Gunfire cracked, the quarry walls coughing echoes back. Sparks danced as rounds struck stone. "Maya," Hawk's voice wasn't desperate, it was resolute. He had no doubt in her, even as bullets hissed past. Her finger hovered. Her heart pounded. She thought of her parents, of David, of every failure that had hollowed her chest. And then she thought of Hawk, the man who had dragged her into hell, yes, but also the man who believed she could climb out. She squeezed. The shot was thunder. A shadow fell. For the first time, blood answered her bullet. Reaper laughed, a sound like gravel grinding under steel. He didn't flinch as his man crumpled, blood pooling into dust. His eyes, pale and hungry, fixed on her scope. "There she is," he growled. "The girl I wanted, the killer." Maya's stomach twisted, bile clawing at her throat. She forced herself to chamber another round, her hands steady though her body trembled. The second man rushed Hawk, knife flashing. Hawk grappled, his movements brutal, efficient. The blade nicked his arm, but Hawk slammed the man against stone, elbow shattering bone, the knife clattering away. Maya tracked him, exhaled, fired. The man fell. Silence followed, heavy as smoke. Two bodies cooling in the dust, Hawk bleeding, chest heaving, and Reaper untouched, still smiling. He stepped forward, slow, deliberate, his boots crunching gravel. The moon carved his face into something monstrous. "You've crossed the line now, girl," Reaper said. His voice was low, intimate. "You think you can put that genie back in the bottle. You've killed for me whether you like it or not. That makes you mine." Maya's voice cracked, but her rifle stayed locked on him. "No, I'm not yours." Reaper spread his arms, daring her. "Then prove it, pull the trigger, end me, or admit you don't have the will." Hawk stepped in front of her, staggering but unbroken. His voice was rough. "Don't, that's what he wants. You kill him and you'll never escape him. He wins either way." Maya's crosshairs wavered. Her chest heaved. Her hands steady on the rifle, trembling in her soul. Reaper's grin widened. "He's right, you know. If you shoot me, I become legend. If you don't, I own you. Either way, you're already finished." Hawk's jaw tightened. He whispered over his shoulder, low enough only for her. "Maya, run." Her voice cracked. "I'm not leaving you." His eyes met hers, pale fire, raw truth. "You have to. You're better than me. You still have choices. Don't let me be the anchor that drags you under." And then he moved. Hawk lunged at Reaper. Time slowed. Dust exploded as boots slammed gravel. Hawk's body crashed into Reaper, driving him back, the two men grappling like beasts under the moon. Hawk's voice was a ragged roar. "Go!" Maya's breath shattered. The rifle shook in her hands. For a split second she had the shot, Reaper's head framed in her scope, Hawk tangled in the struggle. But her finger froze. One twitch and Hawk would die by her hand. Gunfire cracked. A flash lit the dust. Hawk grunted, his body jerking. "No," the word ripped from her chest. She dropped the rifle and sprinted forward, the world narrowing to blood and dust and shadows colliding. Reaper shoved Hawk aside, the older man stumbling, blood slick on his shirt. Reaper's grin was savage, triumphant. "See, you can't save him, you can't save anyone, but me you could join. Together we'd be unstoppable." Maya stood over Hawk, her chest heaving, her hands empty. Her mind screamed, "Pick up the rifle, end him, finish it." But another voice whispered, softer, buried deep, "Don't become him." Her eyes locked with Reaper's. His grin faltered, confusion flickering. For the first time he saw it, her refusal. Not fear, not weakness, but defiance. Maya bent, lifted Hawk's arm over her shoulder, and dragged him toward the quarry's edge. Reaper didn't fire, didn't chase. He simply laughed, the sound carrying into the night like a curse. "Run, little wolf," he called after her. "Run as far as you like, you'll never outrun me." They stumbled into dawn, Hawk half-conscious, blood soaking her clothes. Maya drove without thought, her hands tight on the wheel, eyes burning with rage and terror. Hawk's breathing was ragged beside her, his skin pale. "You're going to be okay," she whispered, though she knew it was a lie. His eyes fluttered, his voice was barely a rasp. "Don't let him win." Tears blurred her vision. "I won't, I promise." The road stretched endless before them, the horizon painted gold by the rising sun. But in the mirror, Maya saw only shadows. Reaper wasn't finished. Not with Hawk, not with her, not with the promise of the girl who had touched the impossible. And she knew the quarry wasn't the end. It was the beginning. That night, as Hawk lay fevered in a stranger's cabin, a veteran's kindness offered without question, Maya sat outside with the rifle across her lap. She had killed, twice, and no matter how much she wanted to deny it, part of her had felt it, that jolt of power, that moment of control. Reaper had seen it too. That's why he smiled. That's why he knew she was dangerous. But Hawk's words clung to her like lifelines. Don't let them turn you into me. The stars above Montana burned sharp, cold. Maya whispered into the dark, a vow to know one and everyone. I'm not yours, Reaper. Not now, not ever. The rifle lay heavy in her hands. And for the first time she understood, perfection wasn't the shot, it was the choice not to take it. What do you hold on to when everything else slips away? Maya asked herself that as she sat in the cabin doorway, the rifle across her lap, the stars burning cold above Montana's mountains. Hawk's breathing was ragged inside, shallow and uneven. She dragged him through blood and gravel, across roads that seemed to stretch forever, but no distance could keep death waiting forever. And still he had fought, still he had given her time. Now time was running out. By morning, Hawk's fever had worsened. His skin was pale, his lips dry. The cabin's owner, a Vietnam veteran who lived alone among the trees, did what he could, but his hands shook with age. This man's been living on borrowed time, the old vet said, voice soft, almost reverent. Whatever's chasing him, it's not just in his body, it's in his bones. Maya sat beside Hawk, holding a cloth to his brow. His eyes fluttered open, pale fire dimmed but still alive. You should have left me, he whispered. Her throat tightened. Don't say that. You're wasting yourself on a man who can't be saved. You still have a future. You can walk away. Maya shook her head, jaw set. No, you believed in me when no one else did. You gave me the chance to prove I wasn't just some broken girl cleaning brass. I'm not leaving you now. A faint smile touched his lips, stubborn just like I thought. Silence stretched between them. Then his voice rasped softer, promise me something. Anything. Don't let Reaper define you. Don't let that bastard turn you into his weapon. Maya swallowed hard. I promise. For 3 days they stayed in the cabin. Maya barely slept. She trained outside in the clearing, adjusting scopes, firing at stones, breathing through the silence. She told herself it was to keep sharp, but in truth she was preparing. Because Reaper wouldn't let them go, not after the quarry, not after she'd killed his men. And on the 4th night, her fear became real. Headlights slashed through the trees. Engines growled low, predatory. The old vet whispered, "Back door," but Maya knew it was pointless. Shadows always found their prey. She kissed Hawk's forehead, her voice steady though her chest was breaking. I'll hold them off. His hand caught her wrist, weak but fierce. His eyes burned one last time. Remember the promise. She nodded, choking back tears. Then she slipped into the trees with the rifle. The forest swallowed sound. Pines loomed like black spires. Maya moved low, breath steady, rifle tight in her grip. Men spilled from SUVs below, dark shapes fanning out with military precision. Reaper was among them. She could hear his laugh, low and sharp, cutting through the night like a blade. Little wolf, his voice carried. Did you really think you could hide forever? You belong to me, come out and I'll let him die quick. Stay hidden and he'll bleed slow. Maya's hands clenched. Rage burned, but she forced herself still. Her grandfather's voice whispered in her memory, feel the wind, be patient. The world will tell you when it's time. Through her scope she tracked them, 3 men sweeping left, 2 circling right, Reaper in the center, confident, exposed. Her finger rested on the trigger. The easiest choice would be to take him now, end him. But Hawk's voice echoed inside her, don't let them turn you into me. She exhaled, lowering the scope. Gunfire erupted near the cabin, shouts. The old vet's shotgun thundered once, twice, then silence. Maya's chest seized. She wanted to run back, to protect Hawk, but she froze, torn between duty and survival, between vengeance and promise. Reaper's voice came again, closer now, mocking. You killed for me once already. Felt good, didn't it? Clean. Easy. That's who you are. You can't change it. Tears blurred her sight, but she steadied herself. No, that wasn't who she was, not unless she chose it. She waited, letting the night close in, letting the hunters believe they were hunting. When the first man passed her tree line, she acted, silent, precise. A strike to the throat, a sweep of his weapon away, he dropped without a shot fired. Another came searching. She let him step past, then dropped him too. It wasn't about distance anymore. It wasn't about steel plates or impossible shots. It was about control, about choosing when not to kill as much as when to strike. By the time the third man realized what was happening, panic rippled through the group. Reaper's commands grew harsher, angrier. Find her. But she was already gone, a shadow among shadows. By dawn, silence had returned to the forest. Bodies lay scattered. Not all dead, some merely broken, stripped of their weapons, left to crawl. She hadn't needed to kill them all. She hadn't wanted to. But Reaper was gone, slipped away in the chaos like smoke through fingers. Maya stumbled back to the cabin, her legs shaking, her body numb. Inside, Hawk lay still. His chest no longer rose. His pale eyes were closed, his face finally at peace. The old vet sat slumped nearby, shotgun across his knees, his body as still as stone. Maya sank to the floor, the rifle falling beside her. Her hands shook, her breath broke, and for the first time since she was a girl, she wept. She buried them both at the tree line. Simple markers, no fanfare, just earth and silence. Then she stood alone in the clearing, staring at the rifle in her hands. The weapon that had given her the impossible, that had taken her innocence, that had nearly stolen her soul. She thought of Hawk's note, scrawled on motel paper, "Don't let them turn you into me." And she knew what she had to do. She walked to the river's edge. The morning sun caught the water, turning it to fire. She held the rifle high, then let it slip from her hands. The current caught it, pulled it under, carried it away. Her chest ached, but her heart felt lighter. For the first time, she wasn't chasing distance. She was letting go. Months later, Maya stood it again. Not as a legend, not as a record holder, as an instructor. Young Marines filled the firing line, rifle steady, eyes nervous. She moved among them, her voice calm, her hands steady. Feel the wind, don't fight it, learn from it. Shooting isn't about control, it's about listening. One Marine turned to her wide-eyed. "Ma'am, is it true you made a 4,000-meter shot?" Maya paused. For a moment she saw the desert again, the steel plate sparking, Hawk's shout of joy. She saw the quarry, the cabin, the river swallowing her rifle. Then she smiled, soft and sad. "The longest shot I ever made wasn't with a rifle, it was walking away from it." The Marine blinked, not understanding, but one day he would. At night, Maya sometimes dreamed of Reaper. His smile, his mocking laugh, she knew he was still out there, watching, waiting, a shadow that couldn't be killed. But she no longer feared him, because she had chosen. Not to be his weapon, not to be his ghost, but to be her own. And so the girl who once picked up brass casings, who once chased perfection, who once touched the impossible, found something far greater. Not glory, not fame, but dignity. And sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.